Greece has scored a global first by becoming the first developed nation to be cut down to emerging market status by Morgan Stanley Capital International MSCI after its stock index plunged 83% since 2007. According to analysts, Greece failed to meet criteria regarding securities borrowing and lending facilities, short selling and transferability, necessitating the move by MSCI, whose equity indices are tracked by investors with about $7 trillion in assets. The company put Greece under review for downgrade in June 2012, saying restrictions on in-kind transfers, off-exchange transactions, stock lending and short selling stopped the country from having a fully functional equities and securities market. Back in Africa, the World Bank has called on South Africa to improve its financial inclusion. The bank says improved access to financial services will help reduce unemployment and poverty. South Africa has one of the highest unemployment rates in the world at about 25.9%, according to the latest data from the first quarter of the year. CCTV's Sumitra Naidu has the details.
Despite government efforts, South Africa is still struggling with rising unemployment. The World Bank has lowered its growth forecast for South Africa, citing a weak economy, labour strife and its exposure to volatile international markets. The bank is proposing some action in areas like financial services, where access to these services needs to be improved. Over 12 million South Africans remain unbanked.
Financial services provide room to diversify risk. So if you're just an individual who doesn't have any relationship to the formal financial sector, no savings, which is the usual product that individuals use first, then if something happens to you, you get sick, or you don't get any more work, you're obviously in a much more difficult situation than if you had a cushion of some sort to rely upon.
While South Africa boasts a fairly sophisticated financial services sector, it has not sufficiently catered for the poorer income groups. High bank charges have prevented many from getting a bank account. Of those who do have a bank account, less than 20% use it more than 3 times a month, which means it's just an instrument for receiving income.
Financial inclusion is one instrument of broadening economic inclusion, and it's an important instrument, as the World Bank research has shown, for not only South Africa but other countries as well, including mobile technology. Is already there in South Africa to a greater extent than it is in other developing countries. That's an advantage, and maybe that advantage is not being utilized to the full extent.
Larger banks are not that conversant with the small enterprise sector. They have experimented in this area. It's not because the large banks have not tried, they just haven't succeeded in their experiments. And that probably means that another kind of institutional structure would be to the benefit of the small enterprise credit environment, if you like.
South Africa's existing infrastructure does have the potential to reach out to large sectors of the population. There have been moves towards mobile and retail banking, which are more cost-effective ways of providing access to poorer and rural communities. According to the World Bank, South Africa has the highest share of adults with a bank account compared to any other African or BRIC country. But this hugely masks the income inequality divide between the rich and the poor, men and women, rural and urban residents in the country. For South Africa to strengthen its economy, it needs to increase the financial empowerment and education of its people. And the first step in financial inclusion is having a bank account. Sumitra Naidu, CCTV, Johannesburg.
Now, the ongoing crackdown in the Ghanaian mining sector that has so far nated several hundred people, including Chinese and West African nationals, for alleged illegal small-scale mining is just part of an ongoing reform of the sector as a whole. Now, according to government, the move is intended to, among other things, improve negative impacts on the environment, to rather mitigate those, while streamlining the way miners are doing businesses in the country. Now, as part of the initiative, the government and other stakeholders have arranged a conference to discuss the way forward and the many issues bedeviling the sector. CCTV's Penina Karibe is in Ghana. She joins us now live from there. Penina, what's the latest on the crackdown and the government's efforts to impose a bit of order on the mining sector in Ghana?
Well, Rama, just like you mentioned there, the government has been saying that there's been an illegal invasion by foreign workers on what they're calling the small-scale mining, that's the artisanal mining. And what we're getting from the government is that these foreign workers come in here, a lot of them don't get visas. Those from the ECOWAS region who don't require a visa do not go through the necessary protocols, so they don't even get work permits, and then they purchase heavy equipment and take them to these regions, very remote regions of Ghana, and engage in these activities. Now, the government, one, has reserved the small-scale sector for just local Ghanaians, and secondly, has even outlawed the heavy equipment usage. So what we're getting from the government is that there's a lot of pollution of water bodies and natural resources and farms, which the government says are the source of livelihoods for these locals. So we've seen an intensified crackdown on these illegal activities on the mining sector. And just on Saturday, there were some people who were arrested. We understand from the government that they were not just the Chinese, but there were also nationals of Nigeria, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And as we speak right now, we understand that the government is deporting them back to their countries. So the government here is just saying that it has increased the crackdown. In fact, 4 weeks ago, President Mahama set up an interministerial task force, which is primarily tasked with investigating what exactly is going on in the mining sector, and also trying to come up with ways through which the government can curb these illegal mining activities in the small-scale sector, Rama.
Well, Penina, as you mentioned, there already has been a crackdown. Several hundred individuals have been arrested. So what's the objective of this conference? What exactly is it supposed to achieve?
Well, the Ghana Mining Summit has been organized by the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Ram. It brings together various stakeholders. We're talking of the government, the large-scale mining companies, the academia, and even the small communities that directly rely on mining. And what we understand is they're looking at ways of promoting investment here in Ghana, especially in the mining sector. They're also highlighting the contribution of the mining sector to development in the country, and also just looking at new ways of just basically boosting this sector and improving it. Now, we also know that the issue of illegal mining is going to feature quite prominently in this summit. But it's here from the Vice President just a couple of minutes ago when he was officially opening this summit, and he did say that the government is trying to put in place necessary measures, stringent measures. He pointed out that this crackdown is not just targeting the Chinese, but other foreigners that are involved in this sector. So we're expecting all these players to come and put more pressure on the government to try and get the government to be more involved, actively involved, and to be quite vigilant when it comes to these issues of illegal mining in this sector. Rama.
Indeed, we'll have to leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for that update. That's CCTV's Penina Kiribish is live in Ghana for the Ghana Mining Conference. We'll, of course, be keeping tabs on developments from that country. Mining, of course, an enormous industry across the African continent. Very, very touchy as well. Quick run through the markets for you right about now. Let's see what your money has been doing across African markets. Starting next door from Ghana in Nigeria, the all-share index in the green by about 2/3. The all-share index also in the green by about 0.71%. The 20-share index in Nairobi, however, very different story. End of the day yesterday, down 1.42 percentage points. In the EGX 13, Egypt also in the red, down 1.3%.